CEP is one of many brands to launch their first running shoe in the last few years after coming in as an apparel brand. But they did something really interesting with this one, making their first shoe a Supertrainer. So how does this shoe stack up to the market? Does it deliver as promised? Today we're reviewing the CEP Omnispeed Bowtech. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV where we review running shoes. Today, like I said, we're reviewing the CEP Omnispeed Bowtech, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of this video, but if you do so, I'd sure appreciate if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been a viewer for a while, but for whatever reason haven't hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today, and turning on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday through Friday. Now, before we dive into any disclaimers, disclosures, or the review itself, quick plug, I am actually making a payment today to the charity organization, the Sports Legacy Foundation, for the Tokyo Marathon charity entry to secure my spot. Now, I'm still able to go and actually raise those funds, but I do have to pay the payment today in order to lock in my spot, and I'm going to do so. That being said, I'm trying to raise $3,000, so it doesn't come fully out of my own pocket. In fact, I actually committed to raise $4,000. Over $1,000 though will come out of my own pocket. I'm committed to doing that. As such, if you'd like to donate to the cause, to basically donate money to benefit those who were affected by the Great East Earthquake in 2011 through youth sports programs based in Fukushima, Japan, then please consider using the GoFundMe link in the description below. Or if you'd like to contribute in other ways and get something in return, I also have affiliate links, and any commissions that I generate will be going towards charity. So if you need any fuel, whether that's gels, electrolytes, post-run drinks, or if you're looking to get some running tights, running shorts, or just gear in general, please consider using the Wallaco code RADDAD20 and the Wallaco link below, or the Fuel Goods code below as well, as both will give me some kickbacks, which I will donate towards charity. Now, with that out of the way, some quick disclaimers and disclosures are that I did receive the shoe for free for the purpose of review. I actually received it through my affiliation with WeViews, which is essentially a crowdsourced running shoe review website. They offered to send a shoe over. It's not paid. They don't get to read the review. I am doing a written review. That was the commitment. They actually did not require a video. I just wanted to make sure that I was reviewing this in my normal style as well. And so no one's giving me talking points. I actually haven't talked to CEP at all. And yeah, they're not paying me, not going to watch the video beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now, as far as intended use of this shoe is actually a Supertrainer. So that's pretty unique for a brand's first entry into the market. And if I'm being honest, it's pretty bold. Now, what is a Supertrainer, right? A Supertrainer is essentially a shoe that you're going to use for the bulk of your miles in marathon training, right? It's the shoe that oftentimes you're going to do your long runs in to basically help save your legs a little bit, not get them totally beat up. It's not going to be quite as aggressive as a super shoe, but it's still going to have a lot of the tech elements with that. So as such, that's how we're going to be evaluating the shoe today. Now, from a price standpoint, the shoe comes in at $225, which is fairly steep. A lot of Supertrainers come in closer to that $200 mark. So $225, they are putting a premium on the shoe. And yeah, you know, I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest, but I do understand. But I feel like coming into the market being kind of an unproven brand in the shoe space, running shoe space specifically, like, to be clear, CEP is a very established brand in like the compression wear space, right? But for shoes itself, just not really, like, it was a big surprise when we saw these at TRE last year for the first time. So I would have liked to see them come in, if anything, a little bit conservative, but I do think that they're trying to put a premium on some unique tech that we'll dive into. And then from a spec standpoint, you know, the shoe comes in at 37 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 7mm drop. So it's not actually 40, which is unique for a Supertrainer. Usually Supertrainers are, honestly, a lot of times they're more than that 40mm mark in the heel. And then from a weight standpoint, 10.2 ounces, 290 grams. Not the heaviest of Supertrainers out there, not the lightest of Supertrainers out there, right? It kind of fits. That's a pretty reasonable weight as far as a Supertrainer goes. But again, keep in mind, a lot of Supertrainers have more stack underfoot. So interesting there. Now, from a fit perspective, it fits a little awkward, to be honest. I would say that I would consider half sizing up. I think you can get away with your normal size, but I will say that while running, I did feel like my toes would shift and bunch or would bump up against the front of the shoe a couple of times. So keep that in mind. I feel like the midfoot area is a fairly snug fit. I don't want to say it's completely narrow because there's a couple of things with the upper we'll discuss that make it a snug fit in the midfoot. And then I would say it's a standard fit otherwise, with maybe a slightly narrower, like standard to narrow toe box. It kind of tapers in a little bit. Moving to that upper, you have a mono mesh, I believe it's called, nylon mono mesh upper. So you can see there that it is fairly breathable overall. You can kind of actually see me through the shoe there in a couple of those mono mesh panels. But then you also have like this multi-piece kind of, I believe it's probably like a TPU paneling, that is reminiscent a little bit of, it kind of looks like almost like the Endorphin Elite, the first version, where, you had kind of some cutouts and then you had like the midfoot lockdown element there. So, with the upper here, you have a fully gusseted tongue that is a thin, just kind of soft material tongue. And then you have these pieces right here, right, which are like attached to the rest of the upper, but allow you to maybe cinch down a little bit tighter in that midfoot area. I will say midfoot lockdown is really, really good, and I don't shift a ton in the shoe. But again, as I did mention, my toes did hit up against the end, and I don't feel like the shoe is said to, it's supposed to be an extension of your foot. It's supposed to fit very snug. I don't think half sizing up I would get that same snug fit. I would feel maybe it was a little bit bulky, and so that's where I'm kind of split on the fit itself. It does fit a little bit awkward. You do have some cushion there in the heel. I would say it's a medium to even like light or heavy cushion there in the heel, nice padding, but the heel tab is deadly. Full transparency, I almost called it after like one run in the shoe, because that heel tab is similar to the Hoka Mach X2. Those who have run in that shoe know that that can cut up your Achilles pretty bad. So you do have kind of the tab there on the back, and it's pretty rough on the Achilles. I actually still have scabs on my Achilles and have had to wear Band-Aids over the last few weeks, and even some moleskin to give some additional padding and blister resist socks to hopefully make these tolerable. But every time I run in these shoes, the heel does dig into my Achilles. It actively cuts it. It actually tore through the socks. They actually provided a pair of CEP socks for me to wear with them, and it tore through those. And even with blister resist socks from Balega, which worked with the Mach X2, where those didn't give me issues when I wore those, I did have still irritation. So that's something, if you're someone who has issues with the heels of shoes kind of cutting you up, there is a very, very high likelihood that this one is going to do the same for you. So, the breathability of the upper is great, but I just feel like they overcomplicated the upper. Going with a more traditional heel or give it like a heel flare, I don't know that the paneling here adds any additional lockdown to what the fully gusseted tongue is giving. And so the upper for me, it really, really struggled, and it was painful to wear. So that kind of puts me in a tough spot there. But outside of that, I do feel like breathability and lockdown were good. From a midsole perspective, so really kind of interesting thing here. So you have a dual density midsole, but it is dual density split between the forefoot and the heel, which is pretty unique. So in the forefoot, we have a TPEE based foam. So that's what you're going to find in a lot of racing shoes nowadays. It's a very responsive foam, but you can kind of tune the density. So it is a soft but firmer. It's not like the squishy TPEE that you're going to find in racing shoes. It's more of a firmer, but yet still has some good give and responsiveness. And then in the heel, it is actually just an EVA foam in the back. So it's going to be a little bit more stable in the back there, going to be a little bit more responsive in the toe off. And then you have a Pebax Bowtech system. So you can see it looks like it's two plates, but what it really is it's almost like an oval here in the middle of the shoe. And as the rationale here, they call it the Bowtech technology. The rationale here is supposed to be that it supports your arch and it helps your foot move through a natural motion, as opposed to a carbon fiber plate is overly rigid and forces you through an unnatural motion, right? So this is supposed to be kind of the idea of it's going to support how your foot is supposed to move, as opposed to forcing your foot to move a certain way. Now, for me, when I did put the shoe on, the arch there is fairly noticeable, and it is pretty jarring there on the heel or the back area of the arch. At first, like my very first run, it felt like the shoe was actually pushing back on me. I didn't feel like it was collapsing how my foot normally would, and it created a really awkward sensation underfoot. And then you can see here in the outsole, you know, there is kind of this big gap here in the forefoot area, and a lot of times that's where I'm landing. So it almost created like a braking force there with the midsole foam, and you know, halfway through the run, I felt like a pretty harsh feeling kind of there in the forefoot area, almost like I was stepping on something every time I planted. So it, you know, as I've run in the shoe more, my foot has gotten used to it, but my first few runs in the shoe were really, really shaky and really, really rough. Now, I will say that the shoe still does give bounce. Like, I'm able to hit good paces in the shoe. I was able to go and hit a progression run where I finished sub 6 minute or a sub 7 minute pace on the last few miles. You know, I've taken out for some intervals, and it you know, it can hit paces. You do get some responsiveness from the forefoot, and it is a very stable overall option. So that's kind of nice there. But for the most part, you know, the shoe fought me quite a bit, and I felt like it was fighting my stride as opposed to aiding my stride. And so, you know, the Bowtech, in theory, I like the idea of having something not quite as rigid as a carbon fiber plate forcing you, but I mean, it's not like this is super flexible either, right? It's still fairly harsh on feet, and I feel like the carbon fiber plates at least aid me a little bit more. So not going to say it's completely off, but I did have an awkward experience with it overall. Moving to the outsole, you have a durable rubber compound, and the outsole did really well. You know, I did not like river crossings, but I did run on, you know, some areas that had just been hit by sprinklers, or where there were rivers nearby, so there was water that had kind of come up on the path and on the paved trails and whatnot, and you know, got the bottoms of these pretty wet and had no issues at all. The durability through, you know, I have just under 30 miles on the shoe. Durability on the outsole is pretty good. So no complaints about the outsole. I don't feel like it's adding much excess weight either. You get good coverage, you get good overall grip, but it's not overly thick. So, you know, it gets the job done for the most part, and I'm not getting any weird wear and tear in any areas surrounding the, or where there's not rubber coverage, right? I think a big part of that also, obviously, really big exposed, cut out, exposed Bowtech plate there, P-Bax plate. So, you know, as far as who's this shoe for, those who are looking for a Supertrainer, right? Looking for a Supertrainer that's fairly stable as well. A lot of Supertrainers are going to be really like super max cushion and have really responsive foams, usually dual density, but sometimes they can be a little bit unstable. You know, to me, this is a little bit reminiscent to the Hyperion Max 3, but lacks some of the bounce and the fun, and obviously like the comfort of that shoe. Also maybe similar to like the Skyward X, right? Which I wasn't a huge Skyward X fan. It feels kind of almost in between the Skyward X and the Hyperion Max 3, as far as where it kind of fits in feel and function. And I'll say that the foam is probably similar density to kind of those two as well, or like kind of the in between there, because the Hyperion Max 3 obviously has that DNA Gold Piba foam that can be pretty soft and bouncy. So this kind of fits somewhere in the middle there. So yeah, I would say those who are looking for a stable Supertrainer, and honestly, like you could race in the shoe as well. Those who have Achilles of steel, right? Like I just, it was really, really hard for me to get miles in it. You can see a little bit of blood staining on this one, and the other one is a lot worse there. So you can see, you know, that's my blood there on the back of the heels. So yeah, the shoe just fought me a lot, fought my stride a lot. I'm not going to say that it's not going to work for someone, because typically there's, you know, every shoe is someone's favorite shoe out there. But for me, the shoe did fight me, and, you know, I'd like to see a significantly more comfortable upper. And, you know, I just don't know if the Bowtech really does it for me. Not saying it's a bad innovation. For me, it didn't quite translate 100% how I was hoping it would. So just some final thoughts. CEP coming in hot, right? Right off the bat, going straight for a Supertrainer. You know, the claim is that the Bowtech is supposed to be better for your feet than a carbon fiber plate or a nylon plate. And, you know, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but, you know, I do think there's a lot of room for improvement. I do think there's a lot of cool elements here. I think there's a lot of cool ideas. And so I'm excited to see, you know, are we going to get a Omnispeed 2? Are we going to get another, maybe like a daily trainer? Are we going to get a racing shoe? CEP, more of a compression recovery brand. So, you know, I think that having a shoe that's supposed to be better for you, right, better for your feet made a lot of sense. I just feel like maybe they should have started with the daily training and started to innovate there as opposed to with the Supertrainer. So, you know, if you watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what questions you have about the Omnispeed Bowtech, or what else I can be doing to make these videos more entertaining, educational, interesting for each and every one of you. Again, if you have the means and are able, please consider donating to the GoFundMe in the description below, benefiting the Sports Legacy Foundation too. But I'm committed, you know, I'm going to pay all the money that I need to. I'm going to make the donation. If I don't raise the money, I'll donate, you know, everything that I need to in order to make it happen. It's an important cause to me, to my family, and it's important to me to be able to return home to Japan after 15 years as well. So we're getting it done. But yeah, as always, let's wrap up here. I'll leave you with a question, which is, what apparel brand were you most surprised launched a shoe over the last few years? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.